how to maximize the ROI of your influencer marketing program. Now, a lot of the time, brands tend to think of ROI or the R or the return of influencers strictly in terms of sales. Now, influencer marketing is not just about getting sales, but the most of the DTC brands, or at least that are new to influencers, think about it in terms of sales, right? But that's not the most efficient way to measure this channel, because it has a holistic cross-channel impact on your business. And in this video, I want to share more about how you can leverage influencer partnerships to see the actual true impact that you have across your other channels in your brand. And sometimes what happens is, if you focus too much on sales, you lose out on the true power of influencers by completely not looking at or completely ignoring these other aspects where influencers might be beneficial for your brand. So I'm Yash Chavan. I'm the founder at SARAL. If you're watching this, you probably already know me. We help hundreds of brands just like yours build holistic long-term influencer programs on our platform. You can check it out. There's a link in the description. But in this video, I'll show you exactly how you can see the whole picture of influencers and look at different ways that you can maximize the return on your influencer campaigns. Let's dive in. The key to maximizing ROI of your influencer posts and content is understanding this one fact, is that the content in itself is the goal. This is a little bit like the be in love with the process, not the outcome type of a situation. But don't worry about sales too much, especially when you start. Worry about the type of content that you're getting, right? The key to maximizing ROI is always thinking, what else can I do with this content beyond it just being an asset on that influencer's feed to help me get more sales in indirect ways, right? You need to think about how you leverage this content in other ways to get sales. And we'll dive into tactics here, but I really want to focus on this point, and I'll break it down into 3 sections on why influencer content is so valuable, right? Because I want you to understand this. There is value in content, right? If you inverse this step, like, first thing to understand is that content itself is valuable. If you inverse it, shitty content is bad. If somebody posts a bad review about you, that's bad. Which means somebody posts a good review about you, that is a very nice thing. Which means content in itself is valuable. It helps you build brand awareness, it helps build trust, it helps the audience of the influencer get to know about your brand, and so on and so forth, right? So fundamentally, it's about the content. The content itself is valuable. Now, how do you get the content, right? You get the good content by giving creators creative freedom. Now, a lot of the times, as ironic as this may sound, brands would get influencers or creators and influence them to make content in the way the brand makes content, which doesn't make sense because they are creators. They are the creative. Right? Treat them as your creative department, right? But no, brands would just give them guidelines and give them talking points and ask them to just say it out loud, right? Which is not very authentic for the influencer's audience. Influencers know what their audience likes. They know what the algorithm likes. Ideally, if you're picking the right ideal creator persona, they have the expertise in your niche, right? So they already know what appeals to their people, and they want to say it in the most authentic, organic way possible. So you should give them, as a brand, the freedom to say what they want to say about you, and make sure that you're not binding them with any sort of creative guidelines or any sort of restrictions like those. So recapping, content is important. Step 2, you need to give them creative freedom to get the good content. And step 3 is you need to get the same content consistently. You need the same influencers to post about you again and again and again. The way you do that is you build long-term relationships. Now, we've done another video on short-term versus long-term influencer marketing, and you can check that out for more on this. But generally, be nice to them, give them free gifts, give them bonuses, put them on a higher commission structure based on performance and so on. So make sure that, and I've made videos on all of these topics, so I'll link them, but make sure that you're being long-term and you're thinking in at least like 6 to 12 months as opposed to 2 weeks about your influencer relationship. So now that we have that established, I want to dive into how you leverage this content to maximize the ROI of your campaigns. Step number 1 to maximize ROI is ask for usage rights. Now, I'll overlay this on the screen, but in SARAL, you can actually socially listen when somebody tags your brand, very likely is an influencer, and you can request usage rights directly from inside the app. We make the process very, very streamlined. But even if you're not using SARAL, you can ask them for usage rights over DMs or email, however you're communicating. Make sure that you have your legal basis covered by asking them for usage rights, especially if they like your brand. So make sure that you're asking for usage rights. Most creators would just give you the creative, like the usage rights for free or for another free product, and use SARAL if you want to streamline this process. Step 2 is where you just need to basically use this content every single place that you can think, which is basically step number 1 is the most basic thing that you could do is repost it on your own social. So whenever somebody tags you, make sure you share it on your story, make sure that you're tagging them saying thank you, make sure you add a highlight section on your Instagram profile so that whenever somebody, because the story will disappear in 24 hours, right? So you need to tag them and make sure you save that story in that highlight section. So if 5 months later somebody comes in, they see the highlights, they see 200 influencers have posted about you, that's a very, very strong signal that'll make them buy, right? So make sure that you're leveraging this content, very basic on social media. Step one, pretty much everybody does that though. So how do you take the next step? You take the next step by asking them for, again, you ask for users' rights to use it in your Facebook ads or your TikTok ads, whatever you're running. We've seen time and time again that authentic influencer generated content. Now, if you're using fake UGC off of marketplaces, that's a different thing. But if you use authentic influencer generated content on your ads, it is going to outperform your static, normal, maybe mass produced kind of recorded in a studio type of a creative. So make sure that you're using these creatives that influencers are generating on your Facebook and TikTok ads. So you get better ROAS there, which means you maximize ROI there as well. So step one, you maximize ROI by reposting on socials and leveraging that social proof. Step two, you reuse it in your ads. Now this also you might have heard, right? So how do you take the next step? Well, the next step could be actually on your product page. So you can have a product page, and in SARAL, by the way, if you use that social listening tool that I mentioned, you can create a shoppable feed which will enable you to embed any sort of influencer content directly inside of your platform, inside of your product page. So if you're using that, this makes the whole process very, very simple. But even if not, you can work with your web developer team and add it to your product pages, right? So make sure that you're using the content that influencers are getting. If influencers are posting about one product, you can have 10 influencers who post about the product directly on the product page, because that's social proof. That's more believable than, semi-anonymous type of reviews, right? Which may come off as sketchy, but influencer content, they can click on it, they can go check it out, they can read the comments. It's more authentic. So make sure that you're reusing it on your product pages. Make sure you could also use it on your homepage and so on, right? So that's that. So you reuse it there. What else can you do? Well, if you think about it, if you think about the purchase journey, we've leveraged it on socials, we leveraged it on ads, which is generally the first touch point. We leveraged it on the website, which is generally the middle touch point. Now from here, where else do you leverage it? What else is left? Well, you can leverage it in your emails. One of the most genius ways that I saw one of our brands use influencer content is in their retargeting or abandonment cart funnels, right? So you can use it in retargeting ads, but especially in abandonment cart. So if you have a particular product, let's say it's a particular supplement, right? And then somebody adds it to cart, doesn't buy. You can retarget them using an abandonment cart email and say, hey, noticed you left this in your cart. Here's what this other influencer who's really, really popular, like if you're buying athletic greens and you leave it in your cart and you get retargeted by an email saying, hey, here's what Tim Ferriss thinks about athletic greens. Here's what Joe Rogan thinks about athletic greens. Here's what all the people like fitness, like David Goggins thinks about athletic. Here's what all the people who you look up to and you follow think about athletic greens, and they love it, which means you should buy it. And that email converts like anything, right? So leverage it also over there. If you have more ideas, please let me know. But these are generally the things that I've seen where you can leverage your influencer content, get so much more juice out of all of the posts that people are making, along with the sales that it will obviously drive for you. Now, with all that said, I want to drop some more tips here that we've seen other brands do, right? We have this series on our blog called Forensics, and you've seen some of the largest brands do this. So use your content as inspiration for other influencers. Make sure that you're sending influencers a guidelines document and mention all of your top performing influencer generated content in that document. So more influencers create content similar to the other high performing influencers, right? So you can do that. Another thing that we've seen done is you can leverage it in person stores. So I think if I'm not wrong, Sephora did this, or Pura Vida has done this. They would have their influencer UGC literally in the physical store in a frame, which is like, if they're doing it, like that's one thing. It's very, very cool if you can do that if you're in retail. Number two, if they're doing it and they do it consistently, that's probably driving sales for them. So make sure that if you are in retail, or if you are, like, you don't even have to be retail, right? If you're setting up a booth at some sort of a convention, make sure that you have your influencer content on some sort of a standee or on a screen or something like that. It just adds more authenticity. It says that, hey, other people are using us, and you can be creative with this, right? I've just shared a few ideas that I have and I have seen done by other brands, but then you can be more creative. Maybe there's a specific use case for your particular brand that you can only uniquely leverage content. Do that. So point is of this whole entire conversation is that content is valuable. Make sure you get good content. Make sure you allow creators to create good content. Make sure you get that on a regular basis, and then follow all of these steps. Make sure you're reusing that content across all of your channels. So I hope you liked this video. I imagine it's so powerful, right? Imagine having one influencer partnership that affects all of these other channels, right? Like from your social media to your ads to your maybe PR to your other influencers to your retargeting ads to your abandonment card emails and so on. Like across touch points, you could leverage your influencer content and maximize the ROI of your investment of time and money in this program. Now, if you like this, leave a like. If you have comments, if you have more ideas on how else you can leverage this content, leave them in the comments below. I'm always excited to hear from you guys. And if you want to check out SARAL to streamline all of your social listening, to check, to make a shoppable feed that you can add on your product page, make sure you get the free trial. I will link it in the description box below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.